That goal says you should not reach down. He says you should, in fact, he says the very interesting thing is, he says, go behind the shiny object syndrome. People usually say avoid shiny object syndrome, just go behind it. Like, pursue everything that interests you, pursue all your curiosity. And he says you should build something like a Star Wars or Avengers of yourself, like a world of, or world of God or world of Sharat, where we can dive in and understand what your thoughts and what your ideas are. And Justin Rich, on the other hand, says you have to go down, pick a niche, work on that. Similarly, Alex Hormozi says, don't keep changing and shifting behind different things. Stick to one thing, build on that. Dan goes is the opposite. So, how to make a poster? Dude, two big people are saying two different things.
And also the creators who get the most engagement are the ones who are talking about how to get more engagement on LinkedIn. I started writing on LinkedIn like in a very purpose-driven way. Right? It was not because I was exploring writing as a hobby or anything like that. Because I had read so much about my personality type, and
Hi, Gaurav. Thanks for joining us on the show. It's great to have you. Can you tell us a bit about your background and why and how did you get started on LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of my background, I am a computer science engineer, and post that I did work in IT for a year or so. Post that I was playing poker professionally for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I decided to go to my MBA, Economics and Business in Finance. So I did that, and then since then, for the last 8 years, I've been working in finance across different banks. And how did I start on LinkedIn? I think we'll talk more about this in detail later, because this is my journey on LinkedIn started from the whole psychology and personality type theory. Like I found out what my personality type was, and then I discovered that writing is something that I might enjoy and I might be good at. So that's what inspired me to start.
There, it came from your personality.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it started. And I mean, I was posting stuff on Instagram prior to that. I was into fitness and stuff. I was posting videos of myself working out and my transformation and those type of things. But then once I discovered that writing is something that I would really enjoy, that's when LinkedIn happened. And then since then I've been writing on. It's been a year, almost a year now, and I've been writing on LinkedIn. So I post on LinkedIn now. I post my written carousels on Instagram as well. But yeah, that's how it started. Almost a year ago.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a very purpose-driven reason to start on LinkedIn, right? Usually people just start thinking that, let me just try out what it is, and maybe looking at the hype of what people are getting, the impressions that they're getting, or stuff like that. But you have a very, very specific reason for starting. That's very...
Yeah, I wasn't even that active on LinkedIn prior to that. Like, if when I started writing, I was not even that active on LinkedIn. Only when I started writing, I wasn't using LinkedIn so much. At least not for consuming content.
Yeah, I have an interesting theory about that. I think people who use LinkedIn most are the ones who actually write on it.
Right. Yeah,
that's a weird thing about the platform, but sure. Actually, it's not a great thing to think about, because you would want people who are using it to not create, right? Because that's what creates the consumption pattern. Like Instagram, most people are not creating, they're just consuming, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's why we need to engage on LinkedIn a lot more to get engagement.
Yeah. True. It's a give and take relationship between different creators, and also the creators who get the most engagement are the ones who are talking about how to get more engagement on LinkedIn.
Or people posting some pics.
Yeah.
Or news, maybe. I think there are 4 types of content that does really well on LinkedIn. One is talk about how to do well on LinkedIn. Second is post some pictures. Third is news does decently well on LinkedIn. And fourth one, humor does really well on LinkedIn. If you do corporate, that kind of humor does really well.
Or even some controversial opinions. I've seen that also do quite well.
Yeah. Because people, actually that probably is more of a Twitter type content. But LinkedIn is also it's hyped up about controversy a lot.
Yeah.
All the people are nice.
I mean, let's say you do post a controversial opinion, a lot of people would have had that thought in their mind,
Yes.
but no one goes
Speak
to
out.
the extent of posting it on LinkedIn because
Yeah.
of your professional network and all those
Yeah.
things. They probably
Yeah.
so,
So they would just support you, or maybe they would, speak out against it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about LinkedIn is people will never harshly criticize you, or they would never
yeah.
criticize you in a way that they would do on Twitter or Instagram. So they would
Or it's-
find you by deciding.
Yeah.
That's also
On they would say things like, "I have a contrary
contribute to like a very corporate equivalent. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun actually.
Yeah.
See, the polished version of people.
Yeah, being their professional selves. It's so interesting how even a online platform makes you professional, even though you don't have to be. Like, apparently, there's no difference between the Twitter and Instagram or LinkedIn, but just because of the name or the kind of environment that's created, it changes people's entire personality that they have. That's how it.
No, I think it's also because on LinkedIn, a lot of people are connected with their colleagues and bosses, right?
Yeah.
And which is not the case on Instagram or Twitter. So at least for me personally, that's why a lot of times I have to refrain from saying things or posting things or commenting about things which I wanted to, because I know that my colleagues and bosses, etc., are also on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's where I get a freedom. After I left my job, I would criticize a lot more. So that's how I feel. I think I even written about that. That after leaving my job, I was able to write a lot more about things which I haven't been able to do before. Because now nobody, is really going to say anything to me. Right? So I can write.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah, that's a good privilege to have.
So you've been posting very consistently on LinkedIn, and do you have any tools or strategies or anything that you can help people who are struggling to do that on a consistent basis improve themselves?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to what you earlier mentioned, right? I started writing on LinkedIn in a very purpose-driven way, right? It was not because I was exploring writing as a hobby or anything like that. Because I had read so much about my personality type, and I was quite sure that okay, this is something I'm going to enjoy. Like even before writing on LinkedIn, actually, I think I first wrote a couple of blogs on my own website. And then I started posting on LinkedIn, right? So I saw that, okay, I was enjoying it. And I had been journaling for the last few years. So all the dots connected that, okay, this is something I think I can stay with for a longer period of time. And then once you start getting that feedback, right? Once you start getting engagement from other people and appreciation, I think that's also something which helps you to keep going. Similar to how you would get into exercising, right? Once you start seeing the benefits or the transformation, then it motivates you to keep doing it. So I think that is something which has helped. Plus, also it helps that I enjoy the process of writing, and it is probably the first thing, not probably, it's actually the first thing that I do every month. As soon as I wake up, the first thing that I do is I start writing posts for LinkedIn. So it's become like a routine and a habit. So that also helps. And in terms of tools, I don't use a lot of tools, but so obviously I think there's something you might relate with. So I do consume a lot of content. Like if you're creating content, you have to consume. Content, right?
Yeah.
So the entire day, I'm always either listening to a podcast, or I'm reading a book, or I'm watching something, or even when you're having a conversation with a friend or a colleague, and if something comes across that interesting, I note it down in my notes app, right? And then the next morning, I try to expand on that idea, and then maybe come up with the post and come up with the hook and those type of things. So yeah, in terms of tools, the notes app or ChatGPT for editing and for grammar checking, and sometimes even coming up with ideas, right? To rephrase your post and come up with some better hooks and ideas. I think ChatGPT also is helpful in those areas. But yeah, apart from this, maybe Canva to create some carousels or now some pictures for Instagram. But that's pretty much is it.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you use any tool apart from?
So I use exactly what you use. I use notes to put on all my thoughts. I used to use Notion earlier, but that felt a little more, you know,
Cumbersome.
a little more cumbersome to me because the interface as such is not very user mobile friendly to quickly note down stuff. So I started Apple Notes. I just write a hashtag of my LinkedIn post and I just jot down my ideas. And then that's what even I have built a routine of starting to create the moment I wake up. I just create any LinkedIn post or maybe an Instagram post. So that's also become part of my daily routine. And commenting is also something which I learned from Kripa Kotesha as well. So she has an alarm that she sets every day, 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock. She sits and comments. She has a routine. So Kripa gets almost 1,000 likes every post. Right? So I asked her, how did you do that? So she told simple things. One is comment regularly. Comment twice a day, morning and evening for 15-20 minutes. Engage with other people. Second one is DM at least 5 new people every week. That's one of her second one. And third one is look at the analytics and figure out what is working. Like everybody will have some posts which do much better than the others. Right? Yeah. So you need to try and capitalize on what's the reason that has worked and try to replicate more and more of that. That's how we can keep pushing on because if you find out the underlying reason why an audience is coming to you, then you can understand more about what more you can provide in that same kind of a pattern. That's why, when people post their picture and write something, and if that gets a lot of engagement, if they don't post their picture, the engagement will drastically drop.
Yeah.
It will be 70, 80%, 90% lesser than if they had posted the picture. So because the audience is expecting that picture for them to create, or for somebody like very smooth, he posts something humorous, right? Almost always actually. If he doesn't post something humorous, he will not get the same engagement. So audience is expecting something specific from every creator. So we have to find out what that is, and accordingly, that's when you can capitalize.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, which is why I avoid posting a lot of pictures in my post because that's not something I think I enjoy doing, right? Like clicking pictures is not something I enjoy doing. So I'm not trying to.
Anyway, men posting pictures is not going to work. There's no point.
Yeah.
So
so that's why I'm trying to not get into that pattern of posting pictures to get more engagement, or rather let the ideas bring in more engagement.
Right. Yeah. Just Justin Welsh or somebody like Dango or Jasmine Alec or Dan Co. They don't post any pictures.
Yeah.
They post clear thoughts and content, right? So that is where I think we need to really shine. And I sometimes post. So I never used to post pictures. So a couple of people on my DMs from LinkedIn, they told me you should post pictures. So I did sometimes. So sometimes I have seen that there is decent engagement on pictures. So sometimes I do post, but I would like it to not post. I'm not keen on posting a picture.
No, I mean, if it is relevant, like for example, your recent post on becoming a father, then that is a relevant picture, right? You're in the hospital, you have a picture with kids. I think then it does make sense.
Makes sense.
But otherwise, just posting a selfie while you're talking about psychology and philosophy, I don't think it would
that
make sense to me.
But that's what people do. They post a selfie and they talk about some corporate something. So I'm sure. So I've been looking at your posts almost regularly. So I see that you're very consistent with the kind of thoughts and the kind of ideas that you talk about. What do you do, or how do you cope with low engagement? So that's something almost every creator goes through, right? So certain posts will just not work. You put a lot of thought into something and you post and it'll be like nobody is interested. So how do you mentally or emotionally deal with that?
I think I'm probably the best person to answer this because anyway, I've been in the writing for 1 year now. And when I started writing, I think I started at around 1,200, 1,300 followers. And at this point, I have 3,000 odd, 3,200. So if you compare with the other creators on LinkedIn, right, they have made much more progress compared to me in the last 1 year, in terms of, follower count and engagement. I mean, a lot of my posts obviously don't get that much engagement, but I think the intention for me to write on LinkedIn, as I said, primarily was because I knew that I would enjoy writing. Right. Second, I enjoy learning new things and then synthesizing them on like using a post or a blog. Right. So it helps me clear my own thoughts. So that's the primary motivation to write. Like I also improve my communication skills and those kind of things. That's the primary motivation. I try to focus less on like the numbers in terms of like how the followers, which is why it's not increasing for me also, because I'm not focusing on that, right? I'm not trying to get a lot of engagement or increase my follower count. Otherwise, I would have to do a lot of things like posting pictures or posting content which gets a lot of engagement. Yeah, which gets a lot of engagement. Even though like as I said, right, most of my ideas come from things that I'm actually learning on a day-to-day basis. So that's why I get the post from. Whether it will get an engagement or not, I don't know. Like I learned something new. I found it interesting. I make a post on it. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. I think it also helps because this is not my full-time job, right? I do have a day job apart from this, so there's not a lot of pressure on me to increase follow count or make money out of this. I think that's where it probably helps, even if I don't get a lot of.
But you do make money out of people following your content and pushing them to the website, and that's where they discover your thoughts and ideas. Isn't that your intention? Isn't that your intention?
That is the intention, but not to. I mean, so it's a very fine balance, right? I don't want like to come across as very pushy in terms of I'm trying to push my products or posters or blog too much onto people, because then it won't give me as much satisfaction as what I'm looking for out of this entire thing around me. So the primary objective is that I should enjoy this, right? And then the secondary objective, okay, if people like it and if they are paying for something, then all right. But even if it doesn't happen, I think I would still continue writing for sure. Even if I don't get like a full-time income out of this, I will still continue.
So actually, I do feel that people who get a lot of engagement, it's not going, it doesn't serve any purpose actually. Apart from you getting a lot of views, what other purpose it serve? They're not going to make any money over it.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of
majority of them, like for example, if you post a content, or let's say you post some story about yourself with a selfie, a lot of people get a lot of likes. So for example, Justin Welch's course, if you take his course, he talks about, one of his YouTube videos where he talks about this, where he shows how some story in US about a particular person, a lot of people had posted about him, everybody's gotten a lot of likes and engagement, and he said it means nothing. At the end of the day, it means nothing. People just forget and keep moving on. But then Justin Welch clearly talks about you picking a specific niche and just posting about that niche. And trying to figure out what can work in that niche, rather than you posting some random things. Because at the end of the day, the intention should be ideally to build something out of it, right? Some sort of side income, some sort of a online presence or thought leadership in a particular niche. That should be ideally the intention. So for example, Justin Welch doesn't really push you, but you could actually want to buy from him, right? I mean, every day that he posts about the same thing, right? But then he subtly puts out or join this newsletter or look at my website. I think you could do stuff like that as well. I don't think it'll come out pushy.
Yeah, no, so I do that. Like I do add the link to my website under every post in the comment section.
Oh,
but
no, you add it in the post. Should add it in the post.
Right. But then I think there is like if you add a link to your post, then that post tends to get lesser engagement. Like LinkedIn will not push it to a lot of people if there is a link in your.
I think that used to be the case. I think it's changed.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now, earlier when we used to post the link, right? About 6 to 8 months ago, the link would still be the same link. It looked like the same link, but now it changes to some sort of a LinkedIn sort of a thing. The formatting of the link.
Yeah. No, so I tell you why that happens. There is a character count. If your link is more than that character count, they shrink it to a specific link. If it was smaller. So if you've seen Rajan Singh's post, right? He always links an extra.
Yes.
There is post.
Yes.
So you will always see habits.
Oh, right, correct.
Then
Correct.
lesser than 16 characters. But
Uh,
when I try to do it, because it is the modern philosophy,
oh,
never shows that.
oh,
that-
okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but to so I want to get back to the point on Justin Welch's idea that you have to find a niche and then try to become a thought leader in that niche. So this is something which I have been like struggling with, right? Because there are two philosophies around this. You know Dan Co, right?
Yeah.
Now the Dan Co again
Create your.
has the same
Create
has
your-
has the same. Sorry.
He says you can create your audience rather than finding an audience. Yeah.
And he also says that you don't like your top of the funnel social media content doesn't have to be like niche down, right? Because you as a person have multiple interests, right? So, and if you want to attract a wide range of audience, then you should talk about all those of their interests.
Yeah.
And as you go down the funnel into like a newsletter or a product, then you should niche down to whatever your expertise is. So that is something which I have also been trying. Because I have multiple interests, right? I like to talk about fitness. I like to talk about psychology. There are so many things. And I know there are a lot of people, like for example, you and me both have a common interest in fitness.
Yeah.
Right. So if you were like, if I wasn't ever writing about fitness, then, our connection might not have been as strong as it might have been now. So I think top of the funnel, I think it's okay. You can write whatever comes to your mind. That's
True.
at least that's what I am going with right now. If it works out or not, that's a different story.
Yes. This is exactly. I actually want to make a post about this. Dadbo says you should not niche down. He says you should. In fact, he says the very interesting thing is he says go behind the shiny object syndrome. People usually say avoid shiny object syndrome. He says go behind it. Like pursue everything that interests you. Pursue all your curiosity. And he says you should build something like a Star Wars or Avengers of yourselves, like a world of world of Gaurav or world of Sharat, where people can dive in and understand what your thoughts or what your ideas are.
Yeah.
And Justin Welch, on the other hand, says you have to go down, pick a niche, work on that. Similarly, Alex Hormozi says don't keep changing and shifting behind different things. Stick to one thing, build on that. Danko says the opposite. So I want to make a poster. Dude, two big people are saying two different things. Like which one
did you relate with? And I have a very good explanation for this. But first, you tell me which one do you relate with? Justin Welch or?
I think naturally I am relating with that. Obviously, from my post, you see that I don't post about the same thing every day. So clearly, I don't relate with the same idea of Justin Welch. So I naturally towards Danko, yeah.
Okay. I think there are a couple of they have different approaches to this. One, I think Danko became famous much later than Justin Welch or Alex Hormozi, right? So he's still a newer addition, right, to the entire social media thing. And I think when Danko started shining, there were already so many content creators in every niche, right? So he had to maybe dabble into a lot of different topics, and then some of his visuals on Instagram started getting blew up. That's how.
Yeah, that was the first
how
thing very blew up.
Yeah. So if my point is, if he would have stuck with one way of doing things and talking about one type of topic, then he might not have
and not have found that worked.
Yeah. And I think the second reason is their personality types. So Danko has the same personality type as I do, right? And IITP. He's an IITP. And my guess is that Justin Welch is an IITJ, similar to you. That's my guess. I'm not so sure. But Danko, I'm sure he's an INTP, right? And INTPs have a broad variety of interests, and they tend to get bored with sticking with one topic. So they like variety in their workouts, which is where Danko is promoting the idea of like follow your curiosity.
That's a very good answer. I love that answer, because if you're not related to that with the personality types, then I can encourage people to figure out, okay, which personality type are you? And according to that, you should pursue that particular path, which will actually help you stick to the long term and then win eventually. Because at the end of it, it's all about sticking in the long term. Doesn't matter whether you're like your multiple curiosities are following one thing. If you're sticking out long enough, I guess you will be successful in either.
Exactly. And I have written about this a couple of times, that if you consume all the content on social media, like all the advice will eventually cancel each other out. And this is why it happens, right? Because there are people of different personalities giving advice. So how do you pick which is the right advice for you? And the way is to find out what your personality type is, and then also understand what this person's personality type could be who's giving you the advice. Only if it connects with if it relates to your personality type, then you should take their advice. Otherwise, you will be stuck in this endless loop of whether I should do this or do that or do. It is very confusing.
Beautiful. So next question naturally would be for people watching, how do they find their personality types? Can you give us a set of steps and what we can do with it?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way is to start, and not say it's the right way, but the easiest way to start is go on this website called www.60personalities.com. It's run by this foundation called Myers-Briggs Foundation, and they have this entire 10-minute long test with a questionnaire that you can answer, and then at the end of it, they will tell you what your personality type is. So it's a good starting point. That's how I also started. But the problem is it's not always correct, right? Because the result of the test will depend on, one, how do you answer the questions, or how do you feel about yourself on that given day, right? So it can change. Second, it also depends on your subjective understanding of the questions themselves, right? Maybe the question is trying to ask you something in a different context, but you understood it in a different context, hence you answered something else, which resulted in a different personality type than your actual personality type. But nevertheless, it's a good starting point, because this is how it happened for me. So I took the test, I got INTJ as a result for the first time. Okay? So I started reading through it. I could connect with few things, but there were certain things I could not connect with, that it did not make sense to me. So I kept going deeper into the theory and the framework, right? There are underlying cognitive functions, and there's a lot of science, like pseudoscience, you're going to call it, but there is an entire logical framework under this.
You're agreeing it's okay, and you're okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree this pseudoscience because this has not been scientifically proven, right? That, okay, there are 8 cognitive functions in the human mind. But the problem is a lot of things in psychology, or anytime you're trying to describe someone's personality, the entire idea is so vague, like it is very difficult to describe it in a very objective and scientific manner. Like any person's personality term, the entire idea is so flowy. So, and I think this is as close to science as you can get while trying to understand your own personality or someone else's personality. Yeah, so I mean, once I read all the theory, and then I started seeing these patterns in people's behavior in the real world, right? I could actually see that, okay, if I'm guessing someone's personality type to be X, that I'm seeing those behaviors patterns in them. And then if, let's say, there are 2 people who I think that have same personality type, then I could see them how similar their behaviors and thinking were. So I started applying this in the real world, and then started making a lot of sense to me. And so which is why I mean, there have been scientific papers written on this, that even there are certain devices which track the brain activity, and they have identified that people with similar personality types have similar parts of their brain active during the day. So there has been a lot of research done, but the entire concept of cognitive functions, thinking, feeling, intuition, sensing, this has not been proven scientifically. Maybe in some point in future it might be, but as of now, I don't think there is a framework to prove this scientifically. But that doesn't stop us from reaping the benefits of this theory. So, yeah.
Okay. So when what prompted you to make a website and try to make something extra out of it, like more out of it, rather than just stop at just thinking it, on life?
Yeah. And so I mean, I think you pointed out that there has to be an objective, a long-term objective behind doing all this, right? And I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit, Right? Even like while I was playing poker and
Right.
even I think poker is also very entrepreneurial in its own sense. And then after having played for a few years, I had started this venture called the Poker School during my MBA
Oh,
college. So actually, again, I was trying to teach people how to play poker. So I always had this, idea of educating people on. So I always believe that there is something I would enjoy doing, and getting to work for like your own venture. I think that's obviously something which has motivated me on this. So yeah, that was the idea. It also gives you a purpose to do this every day. Right? If you have a higher purpose of building something for a longer period of time, then it keeps you going even when, let's say, on days you might not find enjoyment from writing, but it still keeps you going that there is a higher purpose behind all this.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what motivated me to.
So that's a beautiful thought process, right? So there is a very nice story which I really like for this particular to illustrate this particular point. So there are three people who are basically making a statue, right? The first person is thinking, "Oh, I need to, hit this hammer every day. I need to change this color every day, or keep carving." The second person is thinking, "Okay, I'm going to make some money out of this, so I'm doing it." The third person has the statue's end in mind. So he's thinking, "Okay, I'm going to make something very beautiful out of which people will enjoy." And that's what keeps him going. The mundane activities of hitting the hammer every day become boring. But if you have the final vision that I'm going to make something very beautiful which people will enjoy later, that's the final destination that you want to reach. And that's what will keep you going despite the daily grind of things.
That makes sense. I've been reading this book called Slow.
Yeah.
I
I should.
I should say, yeah.
Yeah.
I just started reading it a couple of days ago, but I think it does touch upon some of these ideas that, how can you find enjoyment in the daily boring activities? Yeah, but that's a fair point.
So how do you see the next stage of your LinkedIn or your psychology venture? Where do you see it going in the next, let's say, 2 years and 5 years?
So for right now, I think the focus is on improving myself, like improve my skills of writing, improve my understanding of the subject of like personality type ones. And then there are a few other subjects that I'm interested in. Like, for example, I want to get deeper into philosophy, right? To be specific, the field of phenomenology and study of consciousness and how the mind works and these type of things. So I want to keep upskilling myself in these areas while becoming a better communicator, writing more speaker. So that's the primary focus for now. Long term, I do have a vague idea of what I want to do. I don't know if you have seen this YouTube channel called actualized.org. I don't know if you've heard about him. So Danko speaks about this guy. And so if you listen, his name is Leo Buddha, also an INTP. And he basically has this broad range of topics that he talks about on his YouTube channel, and it's basically philosophy and psychology and self-actualization and spirituality and enlightenment. Whatever his wherever his curiosity takes, right? He creates a long format video on that field. Like he does a lot of research, he experiments it on himself, and then he comes back and shares with his audience. And he's been doing this for the last 10 years. Okay. The channel has done quite well. Like he has over 1 million subscribers. And so I think I'm trying to do something of that sort in the longer run, right? Learn whatever I'm curious about, experiment it on my own life, and then whatever I learn from it, I try to teach what's good or what's bad about these things via social media. So that's the long term.
Like Sahil Bloom writes in his bio, exploring my curiosities and sharing my learning along the way.
Yeah.
Good. The end goal is.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do this? Is there a possibility that you will do this full time any time? If
Yes. I mean, this is something which has been bothering So I'm sure you can relate. Like once you
Yeah.
find something that's so interesting,
Yeah.
you see the potential that okay, it can generate money as well. Then you want to get into it as soon as possible, right? And get out of your grind, 9 to 5 grind. So I've been struggling with this for last few months, to be honest. But I think I do need to be patient. Because as I said, right, I first need to build the skill set. I need to build the deeper understanding of these subjects, right? Before I can actually start adding a lot of value to people and get paid from it. So which is why I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself that, okay, I want to do this in the next 1 year or 2 years. But yeah, I think as long as I get to do this and there is no like financial pressure on me, I think it also helps to keep the art pure.
Pure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not getting affected by financial concerns. So
Yeah.
in a way, it's good that I have if I have a day job, right, which takes care of my expenses, etc. And then I get to do this on the side. But eventually, yes, I do want to spend more and more time on maybe just learning and writing and sharing my.
Beautiful. Actually, that also ties into my philosophy of building something of your own, and which is what I also write about on LinkedIn a lot. Build something of your own. Figure out something just truly speaking to you as a person, rather than something which you're doing only purely for a financial gain, and which is anyway going to not really make you happy from the inside in the long run.
So a lot of these people, for example, that Leo Gura, the guy who runs Actualize.org, I was telling you about, this guy here started an online marketing agency, right, with the intention of becoming financially free. And he did that for 3 or 4 years, made some good high 6 figures from that business. But then he eventually realized that it doesn't fulfill him the way he seeks fulfillment in life. So he ended up handing over that business to his brother. And then he started doing this Actualize.org thing as his life purpose, right? Because that's what gets him fulfillment. And luckily for him, it worked out well financially also. Like the YouTube channel did really well. So yeah, after a point, I think even the financial, like once you have made a certain amount of money, you will start chasing
Correct.
higher.
Something higher. Go up the Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah.
Financial lesson, that factors.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Gaurav. This has been a greatly insightful and meaningful conversation. Actually, this has been the longest conversation as well that I've had with anybody till now.
Yeah.
Because majority we just talk about LinkedIn, but a lot of people are focused only on that. But then we have a lot of common interests, as well as your ideas are very niche, and not many people even have these kind of thoughts, right? Like how you can use your personality to figure out what we want to do in life, and how that can at least you can be a guiding direction, if not the end destination. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a way of starting our journey in that direction. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the insights. Maybe we should do it again once you hit, maybe you quit your job, or once you start doing this full time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, thanks a lot, sir, for having me. I think this is very useful for me as well. I've seen some of your podcasts that year, and I saw that all the guests that you have had on your podcast so far were people who have a massive following on LinkedIn, including yourself, right? I think I'm probably the one with the smallest following. So I also get to learn from this conversation, because you guys have made a lot of progress on LinkedIn. I'm still relatively new. I don't know how long have you been doing this? Is it like more than 3 years, 2 years?
Yeah, November 2020 started, but I wasn't posting consistently at that time, and I didn't know what I was going to write about. But eventually I figured out what to do. Of course, see, there are people who are 19 years old with 3,000, 100,000 followers right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm big or anything. I feel I'm quite small. And I think it's always going to be a struggle, right? It's never going to be easy. Even if you reach 100K, that 100K guy is going to compare with this 500K person. He's going to compare with a million person. And he's going to, and in fact, being at 100K is actually a way bigger problem, because if your post at 100K does not do well, then you're done. That day is gone for you, right? If let's say you're not getting, if a 100K person gets 100,000 impressions every single post without doing anything, if one post of his gets only 10,000, like it's gonna be defeat.
But or even if you stated something or wrote something which you did not give a lot of thought behind, and then people ended up hating it. I've seen this happen to Akshay Srivastav literally. That I think probably he has hired people to write his posts, but a lot of his recent posts have been, not aligned with his earlier chain of thought. And I've seen a lot of people like raising concerns about that, about the things that he is talking about. So I think on that level, those type of things also become a concern. That are your posts aligned with your brand and the direction which you are taking the audience towards? So I think definitely those people have bigger problems to be concerned about.
Yeah, the bigger you go, the bigger problems you'll have.
Yeah.
And it's also possible that Akshat changes as a person with time, right? It's not like he's gonna be set. His thoughts is gonna change, are gonna change, and his ideas that he used to think earlier, what he used to believe will change. Earlier, he used to say he's gonna be in India and he's gonna build in India, but now he's moving to Dubai. He started a couple of companies in Dubai, so maybe that's something people don't like, probably. So yeah, I mean, people do change with time, and audience also changes with time. No audience is gonna stick with the same creator forever. Like Ankur Warikoo, maybe I used to watch him a little bit earlier, but now I don't even remember the video what it was.
Yeah.
People will keep changing with time. No creator is gonna have an audience for more than maybe like 4 or 5 months. So just move on to the next new guy.
Maybe that's a good sign that even creators need to change, right? If you keep talking about the same stuff, people will eventually get bored.
Yeah.
And going back to our first point, right? You find one topic and stick with it. But if you see that people are, so I mean, I have read this in Dan Poe's yesterday's newsletter, very interesting idea that, so there is this framework called stages of ego development. I don't know if you've heard about this. There are 9 stages of ego development, right? Mm-hmm. Basically 9 levels of consciousness. And as a society, we are all progressing towards the highest level of consciousness, right? That's the long-term aim for humanity. That all of us reach the highest level of consciousness, which is very difficult. Like right now, there is probably less than 1% people who have reached the highest level of consciousness. You can call it enlightenment or whatever. But as we progress, more and more people are reaching the highest stages of consciousness, right? So now the basic level starts. Things like, I mean, I don't have a very good example, but very basic things like, okay, you have to save money for financial freedom. You can't talk about that stuff, right? Everyone knows that. Everyone understands, right? But maybe 5 years ago, it was a very good insight for people. But right now, it is not, as good of an insight. So with time, audience is also evolving, and that's why as a creator, we also need to keep evolving on the chain of on those levels of consciousness.
The level of consciousness keeps getting there. But there are certain topics, I think, which will probably never go out of fashion, because it's also true that even if the older audience gets bored of it, like for example, Ankur Warikoo says that. Ankur Warikoo says like, I'm going to keep talking about the same thing because I'm a teacher, and if you've gotten bored of my content, that means you graduated from my class. A new student will come in and he'll start learning from me. So for like school syllabus is the same, right? Newer people keep coming, they keep learning and they keep going out. So that's also another way to think about it. That I'm not talking about one thing. You want to learn about it, you come to me. If you're done learning, you can leave.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. But again, so I mean, obviously, in the short term, this will definitely work. But again, I think Dan Cole's idea was like expand this to next 25, 30 years. The speed at which content is being distributed, everyone will have access to all the basic information. And I mean, I don't know, like basic stuff like saving money, for example, a lot of things which Ankur Warikoo talks about as basic stuff, right? Yes, people might be watching it, but are they going to pay for the basic level of information? That's another point of conversation.
So that depends on what level you are at. Like you're talking about the ego levels, right? Maybe Ankur Warikoo's ego level is only the first 3. And the rest of them, he's not going to cater to that particular audience. So an 18-year-old, see, the interesting thing about humanity is everybody's going to start from scratch. Nobody's directly going to start from high level of consciousness. So there's going to be newer kids coming up and they have to start learning from scratch again. Yeah, that's the disadvantage of being a human, right? You have to start from zero. Like the AI fleet of cars, an update comes, all cars learn the same thing at the same time. But humans always start from the beginning. Oh, A, B, C, D, 1, C. Oh, we have to same mistakes we repeat over and over again. So, so there is an audience which will keep growing. In fact, you could actually argue that that's the biggest audience because population is increasing fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people are on the
Lower end.
basic lower end.
Exactly. But if you go in the higher end, probably would attract a richer audience, more wealthy audience. You could sell a higher ticket audience. Great. I mean, it's been a enlightening conversation as expected, as should be expected as well. So that's what. See, I think a bigger following doesn't mean anything. I think so. Danko has a much lower following than probably Alex or many other people, right? But his ideas are very interesting. People come to him for the idea, and that's what I think really matters. Like you are known for something which the people who want to learn about those things come to you.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, this has been a good conversation for me as well, sir. And I think I will definitely take back some of the LinkedIn tips and tricks from this conversation. I will try to apply it on my content. Let's see if it results in a growth and better engagement.
Still go there. It's been good. Thank you. Thank you for being.
Thanks, sir. Have a good day. Yeah, bye.